Swordman! Psycho Hardcore! Episode 1 Full Color de Sanjo! Blah, 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 blah!
Hello YouTube, this is Charlie426, and today we have the review of the P-Bandai exclusive, or P-Bandai exclusive, SHF Kamen Rider X Swordman. Now, there's a lot of ways to pronounce, or it's not exactly pronounce, but there's multiple ways to say this rider's name. As you can see on the box, you can see there's like Kamen Rider Psycho, Kinnobuki, X Swordman. Yeah, that's a lot of stuff to say, but usually this final form is usually referred as the X Swordman, which is why I'm going with Kamen Rider X Swordman. Now, this character is very odd. I'm just gonna say that right off the bat. So, and before I go even more, I would like to say it's really good to be back. For those who don't know, because of my job, I had to work on the weekends, so I couldn't make a video last week. And because of that job, it took a toll on my body, so my voice may sound a little bit different because, yeah, it was very, very tiring at the moment. But anyway, let's go back to the review. Now, this rider is a very odd character slash rider because, first of all, the character who transforms into this rider is not exactly human. He is like an ancient being that lived for a long time and has been observing the world as it changed. So he's like that kind of character. And at the first time when he transforms, he doesn't transform into this rider. He transforms into the sword that he's actually holding. He first transforms into a sword. So technically, when he transforms, he would have this one, actually, this rider book out. Connected. Now, these are technically the same rider book, but when he transformed, he would transform only into the sword, and he would float around in the sword and slashing his enemies. And when he needs another body to help him out, he would summon a shadow form or a extra shadow body, and then that shadow body would hold this sword and now do all sorts of combat. Now, what made him very powerful at the time is that the shadow body, being actual shadow, it could not be touched. He could not get any physical damage. But of course, without a physical body, this character did have some limitations on certain combat stuff. So later, he got another rider book, which is on his belt. So while in his shadow form, he would insert the book into his belt and then now transform into this form, and yeah, and thus having an actual physical body and full control of this body. So yeah, it's a very odd transformation. So anyway, so let's go on to the components. So first of all, what you get, of course, is obviously the rider himself, and then you actually get his sword. So this is basically the Sword of Light. Is a Sword of Light, while the other one, where Kamen Rider Caliber had this sword, which was the Sword of Darkness. Now, this sword is not included in the figure. This is not included, but since I have Caliber, I took it out because this is this character was actually he mentioned that a long time ago he actually used both swords to defeat or slash kind of, how should I say, to seal away a certain character. Let's put it that way. So yeah, I just wanted to point it out and just wanted to later demonstrate you the pose that he does with these both swords. Anyway, so hand-wise, we get a fist hand on the left hand. Now you get two fist hands, obviously, so here's the other one. Now, once again, being recently with the riders, they only give you one set of hand guards, so every time you swap out the hands, you have to reattach the hand guards, which is kind of annoying time to time. So here is the rider book form when he transforms into the sword. So yeah, so this is the rider form. You can see if you attach it to the sword, this is actually the face here. You can actually see the same sculpt with that's kind of similar to the head over there. So yeah, so this would be the head, and then now technically I believe this would be a gold and silver part. They kind of compose the arms and then the legs. So just to give it that slight, you know, look that it is a character. But once again, I'm pretty sure not many people liked this idea, so not many people were a fan of it. And let's see, hand-wise, other than that, you get a set of open-style hands, and that's it. So technically, you get 4 hands. Wait, actually no, you get 6 hands in total. So yeah, 3 sets. Alright, so now let's get on to the articulation right off the bat. So the head, I think it looks very cool. I actually really like this head. Now, another thing I would like to mention is that this figure may feel a little bit thicker than your typical SHF figure art. So here is SHF Kamen Rider Caliber. You can see already from the arms that the arms definitely seem a little bit thicker, and then the legs. Now, the front, it may not be too present, but when you look at it from the back, you can definitely tell that the legs are much thicker. So this is definitely an interesting way to look at it, but at the same time, for those, I can kind of understand why this is going on here, because the way how this works is that when he transforms into this form, his shadow form basically gains an extra additional armor all over his place. So these colored parts, and every of these black, red, yellow, and white, these parts, these are all additional armors, which is why he gets much thicker. So if they actually do release a shadow form, I would assume it should be on the same thickness as the regular SHF figure arts. But once again, at this point, I'm not sure if they are going to release that, because yeah, I don't think it's really necessary. And if they do, now there is a slight complication regarding the abilities of the character. If they do so, they're not going to be able to do certain stuff with it. Anyway, so let's start with the head. Now, the head looks absolutely amazing. I really like the way how the head turned out. Definitely looking clean, and really, you know, it definitely feels like the actual character that we see in the series. So the head can go down that much, up that much, and then 360, I'm not going to say it's not possible, but it is possible. But once again, I don't think this character is capable of actually doing that. And once again, these parts are slightly sharp, and I would say these fin parts are the most fragile part of the figure. So be careful not to drop it or accidentally break it, because, you know, if in terms of riders, it really looks awkward if you have a horn broken off. So, so we've seen that. So let's look at the arms. Now, the arms are pretty much your typical SHF style arms. Whoops, there we go. Be careful when you rotate that, because you don't want to collide with these parts time to time. So 360 twist, 360 rotation is possible. The arms can barely go 90 degrees to the side because the armor is blocking the way. And then 360 twist on the entire lower arm is possible. There we go. And then bend wise, we get a decent bend, although it's almost 90 degrees bend. And hands are your typical ball jointed hands, where the ball joint is on the arm and the hand has the holes. Alright, so looking at the back, very clean looking back, nothing too special about that if you ask me. They really did a good job on the coloring scheme, because this character is the most colorful rider in the series. So, or heck, I think this might be the most colorful rider we've seen recently. So yeah. Now let's look at the main body actually. So the body has a nice ab crunch going on here, and then you do have a side-to-side movement. Now entirely going 360 on the body is not possible, because there are certain parts blocking the way. Now you could technically force it to go so, but that's not really ideal. And once again, they also did a pretty good job on the books, because recently, or not recently, but if you look at the past riders that has a single Wonder Ride book on the belt, you can see it's pretty much empty. So people would actually buy these third-party stickers and they would apply it here. But in this case, I did not apply anything. It came like this. So they did a really good job on, I think this is paint. Yeah, I think this is a paint job. And they did a really good job. Now, it's not 100% accurate, but it's pretty much enough to make it look like the actual Wonder Ride book from the series. So, yeah. Now, then again, this is large enough so that they could technically paint it. And just for reference, you can take this off, but you cannot close this. So, yeah. Alright, so now looking at the main leg. So here we have these armor parts, very odd armors. I'm not sure how they're exactly connected, but yeah, they're somehow connected. Although I would say be careful with these flaps, because I think these are the type of flaps that you could accidentally rip off if you're not careful. So the legs have a nice side swivel going on here. You can go to the side about almost 90 degrees, but kind of less than 90 degrees. And then we have this part, which is also kind of one of those flexible plastic here, so no need to worry about breaking this part. But once again, because of these kind of stuff, you can't really go 90 degrees to the front, and back not so much as well, because being SHF, you have a much more wider back bottom there, which hinders the movement. So you have to go in an angle right over there like that. Alright, and then bend wise, despite how thick it is, you still get your pretty much decent bend on the legs and knees here. And then the feet has, you can still rotate 360, and then we get a nice, very nice pivot. Despite how thick the figure is, the pivot works very well. And then you get a nice toe bend here. Of course, mine's a little bit stiff. There you go. Alright, so we've seen the basics of the figure. Once again, I really like the way how it turned out, because my biggest concern was, number one, were the colors, because I thought the colors would turn out very messy, but once again, they really did really get that color look very well, because I believe this form was actually before he actually got this form, this character was reading a modern comic book about a hero character kind of thing going on here, and I think this form was actually, and color was also kind of got in reference from that comic book as well. So yeah, that's a pretty cool deal. Now, looking at the sword here, I'm not really sure what type of sword this is. This is definitely an interesting sword. It's a very straight sword, but at the same time, the blade is facing forward like this, and the back does not have anything. So, I don't think this is a rapier, but for those who know, do let me know, because this is definitely a sword that we don't really see too often. Alright, so we've seen the base of the figure, so it does definitely, despite how thick it is, it has the basics of the SHF Figure Arts articulation. So I'll be right back with a few demonstrations. Okay, I'm back. Now, technically, I could have just ended off at the first part, but once again, I just wanted to show this form, or this pose, because in the main series, this character does mention that he was the first user of both blades, and he basically combined the power of the two blades in order to seal off an enemy and destroy, and there was a different way how he used it to destroy a lot of enemies at once. But still, yeah, I thought this was a very nice reference, and actually does give you a use for the other multi-purpose hand. Now, keep in mind, the Blade of Darkness is not included in this figure. You need to get SHF Kamen Rider Caliber, or what you can do is you can wait and get the Kamen Rider Jowl Dragon form, which also does have this sword. But either way, yeah, I thought it was a really nice reference to have both swords out for once. Anyway, thank you for watching the review. This was the review of the P-Bandai exclusive, or P-Bandai exclusive SHF Kamen Rider X Swordman. If you guys got any questions or requests, leave them comment below. I still have more stuff to buy and build and make reviews out, so please stay tuned. Until then, see you guys next time.